Добрый день.
Good afternoon, dear participants of Forum Promotion. Let's begin our session. Please take your seats. My name is Alexei Romanenko. I'm partner of Alvarez Marsal. We are international consultant and actively work in the area of railway transport, both with Russian railways and private carriers, as well as international railroad companies. I'll moderate today's session, and before introducing participants of today's panel discussion, I'd like to show some questions on the screen. Please show me the first questions on the screen. The question is, what is your estimate of the dynamics of passenger transportation in the large metropolis in Russia? Variants of answer: it will grow in two-digit rate. B, it will decrease. C, it will stay the same. There's QR code on the screen. Please scan it and vote. Мне принесли. I see that everyone has voted practically. Please display the outcome of the voting. Actually, what was expected? No one expects decrease of transportation in the cities. Everyone expects that there will be explosive growth. And this is really what happens. Railway transport substantially penetrates in agglomerations, linking not only cities, but also satellite cities to the cities and the regional cities between themselves. This will be portion of our session topic. First of all, let me introduce the discussion participants. Vladimir Brodsky, Deputy Head of Center of Development of the Central St. Petersburg Transport Hub of the Russian Railways. Fabrice Marinon, General Director of SNCN Hubs and Connection, will participate on video. Fabrice, hello. Alexander Lashmanov, Deputy General Director for Development of the Passenger Transport of Transmash Holding. Evgeny Timofeyev, Deputy General Director of our Trading House ASTM. Philippe Citroën, General Director of European Association of Railway Industry, also joins online. Dmitry Bolotsky, Deputy General Director of Group of Companies 1520. In our panel discussion, we'll have participants, experts: Ruslan Misnevsky, Deputy Head of the Center of the Head of Department of the Suburban Transportation and Corporate Transportation, Vladimir, Director of Solutions for Public Transport of Symetra. Thank you, distinguished participants of the discussion. At first, I'd like to give the floor to Vladimir Brodsky. Vladimir, question to you is this. You lead the Center of Development of the Central St. Petersburg Transport Hub. Unquestionably, we see how successful was the project of the Moscow Transport Hub. And this project is multiplied and used in other cities. Please tell us about the project, about the key complications, about path to success. What was the environment? Every large agglomeration has feature, ongoing development accompanied by the growth of population, increased density of urban development, neighboring cities development. Extremely important to react to those processes so development is consistent and not chaotic. First of all, what plays key role? Development of public transportation in the cities. One of the key elements is development of transport transfer hubs. New transfer hubs and approaches allow in a short time, without going outdoors, to transfer for neighboring transport mode and provide flexibility of road selection. It's very important for organization of life in large megapolis that has branched network of transport system and broad spectrum of services to the population in such a way, realizing measures in the central transport hub and developing passenger transportation by rail and collaboration with other modes of transport in the cities. We have the most important parameter of life in city. It's comfortable, seamless environment. Moscow agglomeration within last 10 years pays tight attention to infrastructure, in particular public passenger transport, surface, metro, and of course rail transport. Substantial changes in infrastructure complex of the central transport hub we can observe now. First of all, it's Moscow Central Ring that was opened in 2016. Moscow Central Ring joins many districts of the city, making them available and making new routes for the Muscovites and visitors of the city. Cuts the time of travel. Rush hour, Lastочка travels every 4 minutes. Such headway on business days provides 242 pairs of trains. Moscow Central Link unites 31 stopping points. 26 of those you can transfer to metro, and 10 stations are integrated with the radii of the central transport hub. Demand for services exceeds expectations, the most brave expectations. Today, Moscow Central Ring transport more than 60 million passengers. Passengers selecting mode of transport prefer rail transport, ground transport, because Moscow Central Ring is used by 500,000 passengers. Second, what I'd like to emphasize is diametric routes. D1 Odintsovo-Lobnya and second diameter of MCD2 Podolsk-Nakhabino. They unite suburban cities Odintsovo-Lobnya, Nakhabino, and Podolsk through city center that has become new stage of development of passenger infrastructure of Moscow and Moscow province. It is called to solve the problem of overloaded city and road streets and transport accessibility of near suburban areas. Those diameters are 132 kilometers, uniting 66 stations, out of which in 19 stations you can transfer to metro lines and the Central Ring lines and other railway diameters. Inside of Moscow, a new kind of city transport comparable to metro in terms of speed and convenience, working according to the same standards as metro. Moscow Central Ring has uniform ticketing system as metro, as city ground transport. All length of Moscow Central diameters can be accessed by Troika card. According to experts, after launch of first and second diameters, burden on metro lines decreased by more than 12%. Number of the new passenger seats increased by the factor of 1.6. By 5% we decreased number of the automobiles traveling through the corridors neighboring to diameters. Connection between diameters and Central Ring, we created new routes inside of Moscow, have new mode of transport comparable to metro in terms of speed and convenience, working according to the same standards. It is necessary to know that every day, every mode of transport on itself transports 2 million passengers, and together they transport more than 16, according to the goals of not overloading, efficient organization and redistribution of passenger flow load between all modes of transport. Moscow's central diameter. Passenger trains start from the central ring starting point in 2016, principally changing transport system of the city. Moscow's central diameter decreased load onto metro, terminuses and automotive roads. New type of city transport quickly has become popular among Muscovites and the city visitors. The passenger flow of the ring grows ongoingly. Success of Moscow Central Ring proved the efficiency of railways in megapolises. Today, transport system of Moscow demands breakthrough solutions. How to perfect complex mechanism of city infrastructure. Moscow central diameters. Network of roads of city trains connecting radial directions of railways. Grandiose project includes rebuilding of infrastructure, construction of new tracks and transport transfer hubs. Russian Railways Corporation resolved unprecedented problem in the shortest time under tight urban development conditions and absence of limitation of traffic at the rebuilt areas. The extended network in the city, non-stop operation and masterful using of the tight timetable. They built new tracks, they built modern passenger platforms and train depots. They rebuilt catenary and renewed system of traffic control. Moscow Central diameters cut the travel time and offload transport automotive roads. The trains pass city through, connecting Moscow and neighboring countryside. At first, roads of Moscow Central diameters were launched Ivolga trains. 90% of parts of Ivolga are of Russian origin. The specification and comfort level and economical efficiency, it corresponds to the best foreign peers. Station of Moscow Central diameters meet requirements of modern architecture. Beautiful glazed pavilions and transfer tunnels form the new image of Moscow and Moscow country. Concourses of Moscow Central diameters as true mini terminuses, which include all necessities for comfortable trip. Traveling between suburbs and Moscow has become comfortable for 1 million passengers. In passenger transportation, important role is played by the transfer hubs. That's why Moscow agglomeration pays special attention. That's why it's important to understand that modern agglomeration, the transfer hubs, is not just convenient switch mode place, but this is nicely developed public spaces, commercial facilities, car sharing and economy sharing, organization of taxi ranks and the bicycle stands, development of infrastructure of roads in Moscow city formed new transfer area. Some unique facilities I suggest to take a look at. 29th of May of the current year, we opened largest facility. It's transport transfer hub, TPU Eastern. Its first train terminus built during last 100 years in the capital city. It is number 10 among other train terminuses. New train terminus is fully integrated into existing transport infrastructure of the city of Moscow, with comfortable transfer tunnels to locomotive station and metro Cherkizovskaya. In the same circuit, on the surface of the city transport ground, opening of Vostochny Eastern train terminus switches transit trains, long-distance trains that were serviced by Kursky terminus, and thus created prerequisites for creation of new Kievsko-Gorkovsky diameter of Moscow central diameters. Through this and location of it, passengers can save more than 40 minutes.
Owing to the changes for the central ring, this hub will become the most comfortable place for people arriving to Moscow to airport. The forecast passenger flow for this hub will be about 30,000 people a day, which is almost 13 million people a year. Now, talking about projects of a lesser scale, but which play also an important role. In the distribution of various passenger flows, I would like to mention the Kovrana station that was launched at the end of 2020. This facility plays the role of the transport hub, but also is a metro station, and there's the international bus terminal Northern Gate at the end stop of many modes of public transport. This station meets all the requirements of state-of-the-art passenger infrastructure and the standards of the Moscow central diameters. It should be noted here that Kovrana is a near vicinity for the residents of the adjacent areas. It also helps to unload the Leningrad chassis and the adjacent street network. The forecasted passenger flow of this station is about 15,000 people a day, or more than 5 billion passengers a year. It is noteworthy that in addition to developing the railroad infrastructure of the central transportation hub, the high-speed main line will be developed, and the high-speed line will be laid to Moscow. This is why we intend to open four new transportation hubs here. They're shown on the slide. These are Kryukovo, Petrovsko, Rozumovsky, Rizhskaya, and Leningradskaya. Hence, these hubs will ensure changeover to 5 lines of the Moscow Central diameters and 6 lines of the Moscow Underground. At the present time, the role of transportation hubs in the urban agglomeration is extremely high. The present-day world poses new challenges to transportation facilities and their infrastructure. A transportation hub, since it is a place of concentration of various transportation flows, also hosts various trading spaces and commercial and retail spaces. Implementation of the railway infrastructure development project and similar projects in the Moscow agglomeration will help us to solve the task of creating state-of-the-art transport facilities which meet all the requirements, including the requirement on safety, comfort, accessibility, and 24/7 work. We should also note that considering various factors, such as the adjacent areas and residential blocks, we make individual decisions in every single case, and we create unique facilities in every single case. In line with the plans of Russian Railways and the administration of Moscow and Moscow region to develop the region, in particular with respect to the transport, we are going to continue our work too, and you will be able to see many more new transportation hubs. Thank you. Thank you, Vladimir. You know, as you were delivering a presentation, I was asking questions about integration with the high-speed trains, about the role of the transportation hubs, because they play not only that of the role of transportation, but also social roles. But you tackled upon all these issues in your presentation. I'm sure that we will have questions from the audience. We will get back to this after all the participants made their presentation. Now I would like to give floor to Fabricio Morignon, CEO of SNCF Connections. He will tell us about a very successful experience of integration of high-speed trains using the example of the city of Bordeaux.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to tell you that I'm very pleased and very honored to be with you. I wish I could be with you on stage. Unfortunately, because of this terrible pandemic, it's not possible. But I am with you with my heart and with this screen. Today, I want to focus my speech on one study case, the case of the new high-speed railway station of Bordeaux-Saint-Jean. Because I think it's much more appropriate and most of the time much more relevant, to focus on one stage, which is a real achievement. Maybe we can go now to the slideshow.
Yes, it's okay.
I want to introduce myself. I am Fabrice Morignon. I am the managing director of SNCF Hubs and Connection, a dedicated subsidiary of SNCF Group and of SNCF Station. And we are in charge of managing station. And more specifically, we aim to develop and to provide our expertise internationally. Next slide. So you can see on this picture a picture of the Bordeaux-Saint-Jean railway station. And maybe we can go to the next slide. Okay, so as I told you, I wanted to focus on this example because for the arrival of the high-speed line in June 2017, we decided to revamp, to refurbish the Bordeaux station. First of all, we have, to make a major extension of this station because, with the new high-speed line, first of all, the journey was basically between Paris and Bordeaux. It was a 3.5 hour journey. And after the high-speed line, now the journey takes only 2 hours. And what is really amazing is that we expect an increase of the passenger from 11 million passengers each and every year to 18 million passengers. That's why we had, to enlarge the station, and you know there is another point which is very important. When you decide to reshape a station, as a matter of fact, it's not only the building of the station or the facility of the station. As a matter of fact, you have to reshape the whole neighborhood, because the station is most of the time a part of the city. And I really like to say that the station is a part of the city, and you have most of the time in the station a part of the city with services, with shop, etc., etc. Next slide, please. As I told you, this project, as matter of fact, was not only the reshaping of a high-speed station and of a regular railway station into a high-speed station, but as a matter of fact, it was the revamping of the whole neighborhood of the station. And first of all, I want to provide you a few figures. It was a 200 million euro investment in the station and a 5 billion euro investment in the neighborhood. I repeat, because the figure is very, very important. 5 million investment in the neighborhood. And as you can imagine, as station manager, we have a real role to play, because it's a real economic driver, for the city and for all the territory. And as I told you, to finance this huge project, we have to find, on the one hand, public financing, and on the other hand, private financing. Next slide, please. And we can expect very substantial benefit, from this refurbishment, of the station. We can expect substantial benefit for the station, first of all, but also we can expect benefits for the whole city and for the government and for all the local government. That's why in Bordeaux, we decided to create, a national interest operation. So we will be able to revamp and to revitalize all the territory. And as I told you, it acts as a catalyst for the development and the investment of all the territory. Only go very briefly through the figures. For instance, we created almost 500,000 square meters of office. We expect at the end of this project the creation of more than 20,000 jobs. It's a lot. And we also expect a 2 billion creation of added value for all the territory. And to be more accurate, for the station, we also have an increase of the turnover in the station, because in 2014, we had, roughly speaking, a 30 million turnover in the station, and after the refurbishment, we will have a 40 million euro turnover in the station, which is very, very interesting for the station manager that we are. Next slide, please. As you know, and I do believe that you have to face the same stake than us, public financing is very difficult to find. So we have to find new key of financing, and we have to establish a kind of public partnership program to finance a part of this global refurbishment. That's why we settle an agreement with a car operator, Vinci, and I know that you know Vinci because Vinci is also settled in Russia. And thanks to the refurbishment of the car park, and you can see on the picture the new car park of Bordeaux station, we were able to finance, and I will give you the figures, 40% of the global investment of the station. I repeat because it's a lot, 40% of the global investment in the station. And next slide. Obviously, if you have questions regarding this operation, I will be able, to talk and to provide you precision, and I could talk hours and hours on this project. But I want to be brief because, especially on this kind of presentation, I prefer to go straight to the point and then to answer to your question. So. Next slide, sorry. And on this slide, this is a big picture, the previous one, sorry. It was a big picture. Yes, it was a big picture, of the renovation project. I just want to show you very briefly that first of all, we have to, to renovate, and that's the first step, the renovation of the passenger hall of the station. Then we have to extend, to create a new extension of the station and to open the station to a new neighborhood, and then to reshape the canopy, and then etc. etc. Next slide, please. So as I told you, on the one hand, we had to settle a private-public partnership, but also we have to refurbish and to revamp the station with a public partnership. And that's the key of the success of this kind of operation. It's that all the stakeholders, as well public partnership and private partners, are able to work together. And on this project, so we work with the state, with the regional council, with the metropolis of Bordeaux, the city of Bordeaux, obviously, and also with SNCF network and SNCF station. And we created a specific purpose vehicle, a kind of SPV, so that all the stakeholders could shape together this amazing project. And that's very important, to share all the point of view when you have to drive and to run such a project. Next slide. Very briefly, just to summarize, the funding of the project. So it was, roughly speaking, a 100 million euro global investment. The state and the region of Bordeaux provide 10% of its project. SNCF, as a state-owned company, provide around 20%. And as I've told you, the private partner, Vinci, provide 40% of the project, 40% of the project, which was very, very, very important. And next slide, and that will be my conclusion, because as a conclusion, I want to highlight, the economic impact of the refurbishment of a station and its transformation into a high-speed railway station. And you can see the figure. A station is a gateway of a territory. It's a gateway of a city. And when a passenger enters a station, it's a showcase of the neighborhood and of this territory. And thanks to this operation, thanks to this project, we expect the creation, as I told you, and that's the figure, of more than 20,000 jobs in the station, in the neighborhood. And it's, on the one hand, direct jobs, but also indirect jobs. But it's very, very important. And it's a real economic driver for all the local economy. I want to thank you. I know that sometimes it's a little bit difficult when you are not on stage, and I will be very eager to answer your question. And I want to thank you again to allow me to speak in front of you. Thank you very much.
Спасибо, Фабрис, спасибо.
Fabrice, thank you very much. Merci, merci, Fabrice. You have been able to come here in person, which is a really shame. But it's been an excellent presentation. You shared a very interesting experience, and I'm really glad that Vinci undertook 40%. Well, I'm impressed by the numbers. The second number that I put down, that 300 million euros were invested in the station, 5 billion were invested in the neighborhoods, which means that construction of transportation hubs of railway stations brings an enormous multiplication effect for the entire economy, which should not be underestimated. So when we do financial modeling, we talk about returns on investments, these additional effects that come from the labor productivity, that come from the growth, from acceleration of mobility should also be taken into account. We've talked with you about transportation hubs as centers of gravity, centers of social lives. Now let us show questions about transportation hubs on the screen. The question is as follows. All right. So, will railway stations and transportation hubs become new centers of entertainment, leisure, and compete against trade and business centers?
Thank you. Question.
Фабрис, у вас вопрос?
Fabrice, have question? Seems like no. Question is like this. Can you see question on the screen? Great. Question sounds like this. Whether transport hubs and train terminuses will be center of recreation competing with shopping malls? A question, impossible. A answer B, possible, but it takes investments. Please vote. What is your opinion? I can say that majority have voted. Let's display results of voting. Share of skeptics is rather high, despite of the fact that we have both. Though, example, we have example of Moscow transport hubs. Competing with entertainment and retail is difficult. Let's convince people. We will change the tone and change the theme, talking about passenger transportation in Russia. We'll talk about rolling stock, because rolling stock, in fact, is the point of consumers' experience, is consumer experience that passengers perceive the most acutely. And opinion will be expressed about how much you like or don't like trip. He oftentimes relates to whether he likes train. I'd like to give the floor to Alexander Lashmanov, Deputy General Director on Development of Passenger Transport from Transmash Holding. Alexander, tell us what projects are being realized by Transmash Holding to increase comfort level for passengers. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before this forum. Very important to note and express appreciation of Vladimir and what was stated in his presentation, who said that transport is the integral part. And our new products, Evolga, for instance, is integral element of Moscow's central diameters. The city, as you know from school, agenda is the attraction point. and transport accessibility, safety and comfort, an integral part of comfortable living that help to form the cities. And this part that was stated by previous speakers when people spoke about the efforts made in Moscow traffic hub, in Bordeaux city, they say that creation of infrastructure substantially improves quality of living in the city and the metropolitan areas, the urban areas, and railway rolling stock is the element that adds or creates exactly this level of comfort. In this part, railway rolling stock answers several key questions. First of all, it provides accessibility, affordability, comfort, and safety for the passengers. Besides, as of today, is one of the best in terms of the environmental friendliness and resource saving. Today, we present full product line of passenger rolling stock that satisfy at most all projects that are being realized and planned for realization. It's very important to know that there are different solutions that satisfy requirements in type of electrification, about traffic of passengers, that today, based on examples of previous presentations, we see how it grows. Plus, importance is speed of delivery of passengers inside of the cities, and also full spectrum of important elements, including interaction with infrastructure. All these elements, as the whole, form technical requirements based on which we start creating new rolling stock. Briefly, let me tell you how and what elements, what requirements we operate with while creating rolling stock that in particular was presented by the previous speakers. Something that you can see at the exhibition site here. Key priority, safety. Safety today is forming. It's formed in two ways. It's first of all minimization of human factor, full exclusion of influence of human factor on safety, and second, technical safety. There I'd like to highlight the two ways: the human factor, application of automated systems. It's systems of video surveillance over passengers and some elements of rolling stock. It's full spectrum, the full complex of solutions related to control of sobriety of driver and assistance to the driver and automated driving and machine vision. They will help to avoid human factor. The machinery needs control, and today already realized and being developed predictive diagnostics, which allow to minimize factor of technical failures, so the transportation in the city is comfortable and safe. Now, especially important, but let me reiterate, you asked question, such as why rolling stock is one of the important elements of emotions of passengers. Emotions of passengers is something, as people say, they meet you how you dressed up. So I want to tell about new approaches that we formed in our company while realizing such solutions. We organized marketing research, standalone, and with the carriers we organized focus groups to at most determine requirements expressed by modern passengers. Next, based on these requirements, our Designers team starts working, assembling all the elements. They deliver virtual models. Then passengers in these models can, for the first time, become familiar with what designers make. We receive feedback. After that, we start modeling. The key point is creation of train together with passengers. When we create virtual model, then we create physical model, whereby we elaborate fine-tuning, such as ergonomics of chairs, colors, interior, conveniences, location of the wall outlets, location of places for storing luggage, for hand luggage. All these delicate elements we elaborate using models, and then we use rolling stock to create test models. After that, based on EVOGA, I can say to you that passing 2 iterations after we presented to the passengers full scale consist, we conducted survey, we make fine-tuning, which today is realized by art designers, and the show based on EVOGA 3.0 that every one of you were able to look at. Another element of working on our new project is something that one of the most recent and key tendencies in developing and creating new rolling stock is application of cross-disciplinary integration. Today we see, based on example of Moscow traffic, Moscow transit system, we tightly connected with infrastructure, with new scientific and technological discoveries, and based on the example of Moscow, I'd like to especially point out creation of trains, 2-story trains, double-deckers, and the infrastructure offered by Russian railways and used the most efficiently. We can leverage them. Also, I'd like to point out for you that the main theme of all sessions was the protection of environment, saving resources. This is our project of the hydrogen rail bus that reflects all the elements of cross-functionality, cross-disciplinary integration, because we applied newest technologies in the area of hydrogen, new approach to infrastructure, thus creating facilities that correspond in the near time the most modern requirements. Besides, there is a big wish. We know how much attention is paid in the agglomerations. Acoustic noise, the same requirements are elaborated and taken care in the new products by designers. Drawing bottom line, I'll say that this tight collaboration with infrastructure, with scientific community, with technological institutes allows us to create the products that are in demand by passengers, and we saw in presentations, create coziness and comfort, and create good living in agglomerations, in metropolitan areas. Thank you. Thank you, Alexander. If you didn't look at EVOGA, please do it. Continuing the topic with rolling stock, I'd like to give the floor to Evgeny Timofeyev. Deputy General Director, Trading House STM. Friends, hello. Thank you for the invitation. It's really pleasant to participate in very good discussion. I'll try to be brief. As you understand, any megapolis develops starting from the core and satellite cities, that is concentration of human resources and the diurnal migration of passenger flow back and forth, and today at present time providing transport accessibility and solving safety objective, decrease of social tensions by building interrelated network, including metro lines through trams, rail transport. Here, we're not pioneers. Practical success of rail transport was shown by realized projects in big cities and capital cities of the world. Why? The reason is clear: usage of existing road network, integration of urban transit system, appearance of the concept, and fourth, stage-by-stage realization of the concepts and selection of the priority directions. Successful realization of large transport projects in city of Moscow, such as opening of the central ring, realization of Moscow diameters, have shown efficiency in solving transport objectives and set the foundation of potential for city environment. This year we'll celebrate 5 years. I'd like to congratulate my colleagues with opening of this significant infrastructural project, because nothing like this didn't happen in all Russia. At this time, the most potential for city railway, such as city commuter train, very successful is northern capital. I'd like to warn constituents, leaders of the Russian Federation, the effect of copycatting. You have to do it after elaboration of the project as the whole, considering housing infrastructure, considering commercial districts, considering industrial districts, and also readiness, the most important, readiness of the public budget to carry expenses. As you know, organization of St. Petersburg Central Ring will give additional push to development of radial directions. We as Synara Group flexibly react to the demands of our consumers, and yielding to modern tendencies have developed for St. Petersburg hub two variants of our electric train. I'd like to note that Lastochka, that 25 modifications of Lastochka on demand of Russian Railways as the key customer of us. But now they demand from us not only supply rolling stock, but also supply comprehensive product. So Synara Group offers now to buy from us comprehensive solution. We have new trains, the full service based on the life cycle contracts, from equipment, building, till the moment of recycling, and also construction and maintenance of the workshops. It is clear that the effect for Russian Railways is cutting costs, high reliability of the trains, proprietary repair base, and operational readiness. More so, we're ready to enter capital of suburban companies and carry debts accumulated by now by these suburban companies. With assurance, we look to the future, because we realize that our proposals are good for the future, that will give good push to the transport systems, not only to mega cities, but also peripheral parts of Russian Federation. We speak much about digitalization. We speak much about predictive technologies. Lastochka, in terms of automation and unattended driving, participated in dynamic show here. You're familiar with Lastochka. I'm sure many of you use Moscow's central ring, but behind all digital challenges, let me ask you a question. Does customer ready to buy expensive at first rolling stock? a slang term, doesn't fly. That is why at this time ready to consider the suburban passenger rolling stock from the standpoint of economical efficiency is not quite correct. The support tools by producer and by the buyer function not efficiently or very inefficiently. We all realize that without assistance of the state, we will not be able to further develop our machinery. And in future, multiply throughout the provinces of the Federation. If decision is done, we will be surely looking to the future. Thank you. I agree. The central diameter of St. Petersburg is very classy but very expensive. So if it doesn't happen like with the railway in St. Petersburg, we need to perfectly calculate economical model and investment by the state necessary for infrastructure. To continue our conversation, I'd like to give the floor to Philippe Citrin, General Director of European Association of Railway Industry.
2021 год.
Philip, year 2020, 2021 was a lot.
Okay, sorry. I can start now? Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So thank you very much for the invitation. And UNIFE, as you know, very close relations with RZD and OPGT, and it's unfortunately we have not been able to be in Moscow, but it will be done certainly in the next month. UNIFE represents the European train builders and rail suppliers. It's an association who advocates on behalf of more than 100 of Europe's leading companies, which goes from SMEs to major industrial champions. We are all active in the design, manufacture, maintenance, and refurbishment of rail transport systems. And as you know, a lot of UNIFE companies are doing business in Russia and the CIS, and it's a very important market for us. Today, the EU institutions, and that was a request from Alexei, I would like to say a few words on the political background in Brussels. So the EU institutions have made digitalization, as been mentioned, the second hallmark of the mandate supporting the Green Deal. Today in Brussels, the objective for the politicians is to reach climate neutrality for the EU by 2050. And you have to note that the targets for 2030 are extremely challenging, and there are binding requirements on the climate neutral law. Those requirements are important. It's 55% greenhouse gas emissions reduction. 40% share of energy for renewable sources, and up to 41% reduction of final energy consumption. That is why there is a lot of effort done on hydrogen trains, and you've seen that now they are operating in Germany. And then you have the battery powered trains as well. So our members are working hard on those topics. Before I go on with digitalization, we just want to say that those objectives of the Green Deal are extremely challenging, but not for the rail sector, because we are certainly one of the transport sectors who have the lowest rate of CO2 emissions. So now I would like to say, as has been requested, a few words on digitalization. I think that some of the most significant developments on rail digitization can be identified on. You have the automatic train operations, has already been mentioned, and we had a seminar with SZD 3 months ago on this. This is certainly one of the most telling examples of breakthroughs in rail technology. If we build out on the rollout of ERTMS, the exploitation of artificial intelligence solutions, then we can have improved capacity, decreased traction energy consumption, enhanced safety and security, and better customer information. Then on digitalization, we also have predictive maintenance, but I will not go in detail, and high-risk maintenance, which are absolutely essential. And we also have the estimated time of arrival that by using information from previous train journeys, and having more data accessed by calculators, we can have a better management of the rail sector, not only for passengers, but as well for rail freight. As I know that there's not a lot of time for my presentation now, I just wanted to say that we have created, 5 years ago, a PPP on rail research and innovation. Called Shift to Rail. This PPP will be prolonged by another PPP, which will be ready for the end of this year, called Europe's Rail. And of course, we will be very happy to give information to RZD and to all the people who are listening to me on this new PPP, which is absolutely essential for rail in the future and which has a big focus on digitalization. So that's what I wanted to say to you. Of course, we have a close relations with OPGT and we work on those different topics together. And thank you again for the invitation.
Спасибо большое, Филипп. Спасибо.
Philip, thank you very much. Thank you. Well, as we all know, year 2021 was announced year of passenger railway transport in Europe. So it would be great. It is great, and in Russia it is a year of science technology. It would be great if year 2022 would be year of railway passenger transport or just railway transport in Russia too. I think that would be a very good idea. Well, to continue our discussion, I would like to give floor to Dmitry Zabolosky, Deputy CEO of 1520 Group of Companies. Dmitry, I have this question. Philip began discussing the digitalization, and you are one of the largest contributors of Russian railways engaged in building the infrastructure of railways. Could you please tell us about the digital tools, latest technologies that you apply in your projects? Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you, Alexei. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Yes, this is true. 1520 Group of Company, which includes more than 50 largest companies. We're the Russian Railways' largest design company that does practically all the design for the Russian Railways. My colleague has made a very good case. He told about all the advantages and achievements of the Moscow railway ring, Moscow central diameters. I think that in the past 5 years, Moscow has become one of the world leaders with respect to accessibility, affordability, and comfort of mass transport systems. It is true. We have new trains, Swallows, which Siemens adapted to Russia, and Ivolga, which is a wholly Russian-made train. So they offer the level of comfort which is any capital of the world can take a pride in. What we also like very much, that we have been able to meet the ambitious goals that the Russian Railways has set for us. And the Moscow government and the transportation department has also set these tasks, and we have been able to meet them. This was a long process. The Moscow central diameters were launched in a very short time, so the process is still continuing. New transportation hubs are being built, platforms are being relocated. But if you listen to my colleague, then you may have heard that the infrastructure of transportation hubs has become fully accessible for low mobility groups. You can park your car, you can access it by a bicycle, you can drive there with a car, you can take a car in a car sharing service, you can have a snack from a vending machine. I'm not going to talk much about rolling stock because my colleagues have talked about it extensively. But I have this pleasure to ride the Volga train this morning, an excellent train. But very few points I would like to dwell on. We're showing here both the simulation models, all the way from the concept to implementation. It is possible now to simulate anything, which gives significant economic effects throughout the life cycle, because the transportation hub is there for people to change one mode of transport for another mode of transport. This is a multimodal system of transport. It is probably one of the world's best. You change from the commuter train via a tunnel with dry feet and dry head. You proceed to the Moscow Underground, and you take the Moscow Metro train to your final destination. Now, all this has to be simulated in the computer software, because can the transportation hub be a center of entertainment? Well, yes, it can, but it takes additional investments. Maybe it wouldn't if people would focus more on how to simulate things at the design stage, because you can simulate practically anything, and the BIM models which are used for engineering and simulation today are so advanced that you can program anything. You can program any transportation hub with any engineering systems and architectural solutions. You can fit it in the existing architectural ensemble. You can think about the rain protection systems. You can build it into existing engineering networks of the city, water supplies, energy supplies, sewerage, video surveillance systems. This all can be simulated on the computer. So if you build a big model, a model which is in full compliance with the real life, then after that you can engage into upgrading and modernization in small increments. And in this way you can start using the areas of the transportation hubs for various commercial or entertainment activities. So BIM modeling is what enables us going forward, which enables us reaching very good results in creating a very comfortable and very safe infrastructure for our residents. You know, I would beg to differ with Yevgeny. He says it doesn't fly. Maybe you could discuss the rolling stock. I don't know so much whether the rolling stock made by private operators wouldn't fly. Clearly, subsidies are required because not all groups of population can afford a ride. But still, at the moment, the infrastructure is monopoly owned, and anything which is made from our taxes. So, and it is implemented by our government, the government of the city. Now, if we look at it from a rational point of view, starting all the way from the design stage, and if we take into account the price of the simulation, of the modeling, of the and the ability to modernize, to upgrade these transportation hubs. Yes, this will increase the price of the simulation slightly, but it will increase the life cycle significantly, because any modification, any renovation of the transportation hub will help us to reduce the construction time. The simulation will reduce the construction time and will significantly reduce the costs of the modernization in the future. You know, Russia has already been making steps. For instance, starting from next year, engineering modeling will become mandatory starting from next year. It is not standardized, not unified yet, and it doesn't cover all the costs of simulation, but still, these are the first steps. If we move in this direction, and if we do this with bigger energy, then Alexander told us about simulating chains. We will also come to simulating the infrastructure, which will help us significantly to reduce any additional costs on modernization and further development. That is all I have to say. Thank you. Dmitry, thank you very much. You know, considering that we don't have that much time left, but still we need to give the floor to our experts. I would like to invite here Ruslan Lesnevsky. Ruslan, please, come to the stage. My question to you is as follows. Vladimir has told us a very interesting story about creating the transportation hubs in Moscow. Could you please tell us more about what the regions are doing to develop transportation, passenger transportation, and what do they do to build transportation hubs? Yes, thank you. You know, I would like to... So, the urban electric train project is being developed in 12 cities in addition to Moscow. Nizhny Novgorod, Kazan, Rostov-on-Don, Krasnoyarsk, Volgograd, Ufa, Voronezh, Tyumen, Vladivostok, Kaliningrad, Sochi, and Tambov. So, in addition, we see that there are very good plans to develop this network in 10 more cities of Russia. St. Petersburg, Krasnodar, Perm, Samara, Novosibirsk, Mineralny Vody, Saratov, Chelyabinsk, Ekaterinburg, and Belgorod. The reason I'm listing these cities is because, as we already heard, everybody is interested in developing this project, starting from the regional administration, local residents, manufacturers, business sector. So, without further ado, I would like to highlight a number of points. Who would be the winner? Who would be the main beneficiary from such projects? Well, it's clear the residents and the urban agglomeration of the region. What would a passenger receive? It's a good schedule, acceleration of trains and shorter headways. I would like to point out that what is typical of all the projects is not only the time it takes to travel from A to B is reduced, but also the headway is reduced. And we see a very clear interval. We see guaranteed quality of service. Another important point which was not discussed. It is the trend for zero loss of time on the route. And urban electric trains give us this opportunity. I can sit on the train, I can read on the train, I wouldn't spend any time doing nothing. Furthermore, increase of the throughput capacity, lower load on the street network, creation of new jobs, higher budget revenues, or business. Take the commercial sector, for instance. The business sector would also win. The business sector receives new orders for the production of the railway stock and for construction of the infrastructure. One more thing. On top of the plans to develop these hubs, we have seen concrete steps. The urban electric train project will be developed in 7 more agglomerations: Kazan, Nizhny Novgorod, Samara, Tolyaty, Ufa, Krasnodar, Novosibirsk, and others. These projects are on the list of the mobile city projects supported by the Russian government. Well, these are serious projects that require serious investments in the infrastructure. The involvement of all the stakeholders has also to be identified. We discussed government support, but I'll give you a number more examples. Well, examples that I think I will need to stop on. I need to dwell on. One, you may have heard about the Ivanovo region. So we're talking about large cities, like cities with more than 1 million people of inhabitants. But the railway transportation is the skeleton that connects the region. In May, the Ivanovo region revised its network of suburban trains. What did they do? They substituted all the trains with the rail buses. Previously, they had locomotive-driven trains. They decreased the time it takes from A to B. The tariff in the city of Ivanovo was brought into compliance with urban transport. As a result, the passenger flow grew 143% versus 2019. And several more interesting examples. If we look overall, we see a decrease of 11% versus 2019 level in the suburban communications. But if we look at the area of Krasnodar region, Kuban Express or North Caucasus company that works in the Rostov region, Stavropol region, North Caucasus, and the Kaliningrad region on the Baltic Sea, we see an increase of passenger flow versus the 2019 level. Clearly, this may be explained by the trends focused on developing inner tourism in Russia. Regions have seen the results of this inner tourism growth, but suburban communication companies were ready for this. Take Kaliningrad, take Kuban. They use Lastочка trains, both on the Baltic Sea and the Black Sea. Or take the Rostov-on-the-Don region. Most of the trains were replaced by the modern trains in 3D. Or the Rostov-Taganrog section.
It shares 50%, and here is the place of circulation of modern concepts. We see results of how it is reflected not only in Moscow but also in entire Russia. So I joined with the voting, who voted, and I voted myself. We have serious potential and growth of the passenger flow in the suburban trains. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ruslan. We'll hope this trend will continue. And in majority of Russian cities, we'll have convenient and comfortable railway lines meeting the countryside and cities. Vladimir Valdin, you don't have much time. I'd like to give the floor to you so that you can tell us about solutions of your company in the area of the tram-train. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Thank you very much for the given opportunity to speak. At first, I'd like to tell about history and theory at an expected angle, known that all modes of transport goes through functional convergence. Technology that survives and gets second breath is the most steady. Nothing better than rail transport. Organization of work comes from engineering logics, and the names are changing, and those who build and operate and will have marketing terms such as LRT and Tram-trains didn't imagine what would it make. In Moscow, in Revel, in the Japan, in America, in European cities, it was successful and disappeared because of the aging economical model. LRT, what's so different from modern tram, is the same train, collects people in remote suburb, carries through potato fields and delivers to the city center without any transfer. Tram-train is development of LRT. In agglomerations, we have abundant railway tracks of common access and private access. Why not to cross them? Next slide. We have the following advantage. We engage low burden tracks and solve the problem of extension of the network and improve connection between remote parts with the city centers. At the same time, we cut the cost for infrastructure and alienation of lands. The merger and junctions help to use tram stock, rolling stock, and rail rolling stock. In 1992, we had model of Karlsruhe that became example of development of the future technology of tram trains, based on the city name introduced for the first time. Prior to this, 10 years Ministry of Development and Deutsche Bank conducted research. After that time, till now, they opened 28 systems like this. On the slide, you can see dynamics of the passenger flow. On the key lines roll through, and the traffic flows at operation of lines in regular railway format, and those flows that was created after was converted into tram train. It's important the rolling stock of the tram type. More often and more successful is the countries where exploration of the system is done by national railroad carriers such as SNCF, Deutsche Bahn, and a number of others. Karlsruhe system is the largest. S-Bahn system carries more than 70 million people through 70 routes with 63 stations. It's about 600 kilometers. The lengthiest is 200 minutes with average route speed more than 40 kilometers per hour. For comparison, the same volume as passenger flow of the Northwestern Suburban company. Second, in terms of length, agglomeration and Karlsruhe. 3 routes, length from 46 to 57 minutes, with headway from 15 minutes to half an hour, and annual turnover 15 million. In 16th, it was comparable to flow in Soдружество. 2/3 of express in Novosibirsk. In Great Britain, new systems are built on low-burden tracks. Manchester tram system is this. The most interesting question is how much. Depends how you calculate and what you calculate. The Karlsruhe, because of the branching system, is difficult. The simple example, one of the recent tram trains in Sheffield, 12 kilometers, was assessed at 15 million pounds. At the end, it was 75 million. The 5 times overpricing, because 7 depots and the track was 7 million pounds. The recent example, Hungary, where the analogous tram train will go in Szegedi and the suburbs. It will open this year, 23 kilometers, 3 kilometers purely tram, new built lines. The rest is old track. And 17th was assessed 64 million euros. The final price will be traditionally 193 million, and rebuilding is 136 million. Expected traffic flow to 20 million. Next slide. For Russia, assessment of places where similar thing is possible. Tram cities and cities without trams. We had information that tram train may appear in Sevastopol, but it's rather going to be a suburban train in the city. In Moscow, we can consider lengthy industrial track at Elektrolampovy Zavod, Hrunichevo plant, Dzhinskaya, Medvedki, access road, Novoproletarskaya and Staroproletarskaya. All except electric bulb plants are used for the freight traffic, but in 5 to 10 years they can stop and remove the plants, but the land will be kept. Tram trains can solve in Russia problem. The tram rolling stock is low floor and capacity to carry low mobility passengers. Attraction of the system is we can make decisions like made in Sheffield. First, using the suspension, the gauge, the beams, using of the loading gauge and construction gauge, interaction between Russian railways, the owners infrastructure of common access and operators of the common transport. Although everything will be much easier if tram trains in Russia, just like in Germany or France, will be done by a chief national carrier, such as Russian Railways, building subsidiary entity. I think that Russian Railways will be easy to come to tram tracks. Next slide. In order to determine the most priority directions for realization of such projects, naturally, as the repetition, we say that we need to calculate. The best calculation instrument for the roads like this is transport economical assessment of transport economical effect compared to other solutions. The method of transport modeling and planning that can be done in PT Visum by company software producer we represent, and headquarters, not incidentally, is located in Karlsruhe. Thank you for your attention. I hope that tram trains will run in Russia. And now we'll switch to Q&A. We're out of timetable. I'd like to keep a couple minutes for Q&A. Dear participants, you're welcome. Good afternoon. Nevzhny Vyacheslav from Transport Institute of Novosibirsk, province Novosibirsk, based on 2020, is in global jam rating number 24 tracks of suburban trains because of the headway from 1 hour to 2.5. In city mode, they are not used. One track is used, but carries 40% out of all volume of transportation in the province. Just recently, we conducted assessment. The organizational measures, ordering 20 million additional train operation, we improve accessibility by 90%. Spending 3% more funds will increase by 900% of coverage by rail transport. At the same time, all these measures are organizational without capital outlay. Novosibirsk is located like this. We don't need, like in Moscow, to connect diameters. We have 4 diameters historically built. Doesn't require capital investment. At the same time, the further construction that we planned and considered at 10 to 15 billion rubles will add 7 stations to 34 existing stations. The shares are not comparable. Considering favorable location of the city, I have a question to Vladimir. How to become city number 3 in your organization? Considering that Novosibirsk is city number 3 in terms of the population quantity, how we can join Moscow and St. Petersburg, and how federal level will help us? Thank you for your question. Before going to the answer, I wish to say that till 2016 we were named Central, or rather Moscow Transport Hub. Then we became Central Transport Hub. Now we're called Center for Development of the Central and St. Petersburg Railway Hub. Of course, this development may touch other provinces, but I'd like to know that today in Novosibirsk Railway, I mean regional railway, today such elaborations are being done. I think that interaction of the city-urban train, I just met in the document that elaboration is underway, and I think that after detailed elaboration and making decisions with affirmation of financial economical base and feasibility study, after discussion, Novosibirsk can become, or rather has the status of agglomeration, or status of the city-urban train also. But in the future we will consider. It has to do, during discussion we had experts talking about Nizhny Novgorod, also from the city commuter trains along with Novosibirsk and other cities. They come with the proposal to organize city commuter train. This is what you're saying. This is our next future. Thank you. More questions? Vladimir Serdenko, Center for Economics of Infrastructure. My question to the producers of rolling stock. When we talk about city electric train, extremely important to provide comfortable boarding and disembarking. In majority of large agglomerations, anything east from Urals is low platforms. Transmash Holding talk about development of the future suburban train with low floor. But today, the exhibition, we didn't find any information. So Transmash Holding, tell us about what one can expect new train. Thank you for your question. It's true. 2 years ago, here in Sherbinka, we showed first concept development of such train, elaboration of such train. Today, technical requirements, the specification coming to completion. We conducted a number of the pre-project works. In principle, we are ready for the next step to develop train, because bulk of pre-project work was carried out by us. My question faces with something. There is no long-term program with Russian railways. We work with on the conditions that the order is placed only for the next year. But we see today efforts of Russian railways and Ministry of Transport who try to make long-term program of upgrading of the fleet. And financing will be cleared during pre-project work. After that, we'll start project work, because we need to just start tomorrow and begin. First of all, it has to do with the alternative current, because we have nuances. The colleagues speak about city urban train in Novosibirsk, which our first elaboration was alternative current, but the solutions that we inserted to the project will touch platforms for electric trains for Novosibirsk. If there will be interest from the standpoint of train with low floor, that simplifies boarding and disembarking, we're ready to consider. We receive requests from PERM that also works on direct current. If all the stars constellate, we'll have federal program on renewal of the fleet. And I think that by next year, next time in Sherbinka, next promotion, we will have a product. And I think at the stage of testing, objective is there. There are a few steps left. As to the Elastichka train today, technical solutions for low platforms, we have them. Disembarking of the passengers with low mobility qualities. Also, together with Siemens, we have elaborations, production of the next modification of trains with the well-typed rail cars. It will free us from unification. For now, it's all organized for the high platforms. So perfectly understand that radial directions will be priority with low platforms. Technical capacity exists. I'd like to answer a colleague about Novosibirsk. Several times we brought initiative to organize discussion regarding organization of internal city suburban train. We have examples like this, such as St. Petersburg together with Oktobersky Railway, together with Northwestern Suburban Company. We organized working group, and today we supply our propositions in terms of equipment supply. And about the workshop complex construction, we provide variativity. We are ready, we opened, you're welcome. So first of all, Evgeny, it's still work together, not only with Russian railways, but with the constituents of the Russian Federation. Yes, absolutely correct. It all fits to the Transport Committee operation. If you will head this work, and we will conduct it in the planned, well-ordered work. More questions from the audience? No questions. Before dismissing a question to you, please last question for voting. Let's vote. Question sounds like this. Will passengers refuse to use personal car after 15 years? Answers yes. Refuse in favor of passenger rail transport, tram, monorail, tram, railway. In favor of gadgets such as bicycle, roller coaster. Yes. In favor of collective transportation such as unattended van pool. And we will not refuse. Let's vote. What is the future in automotive transport? I see that you voted. Let's show the answers on the screen. Will not refuse. Number 2, refuse in favor of railroad. It seems that we need to invest into construction of railway transfer hubs and railways in the cities. I'd like to express my thanks for participation in this discussion. A successful day and good attendance of exhibition. Thank you.